License and registration. Not that one. The one for Dexter Morgan.
Who could have found me out? A podcaster from out of town? Could be.
Hey guys, Pete here. Today I'm going to do another Dexter New Blood video. I'm going to look at the episode 6 description, break down the next on teaser trailer, and then I'll get into some theories about where things might be going. If any of that sounds like spoilers to you, then this is both your warning and chance to leave. And with that out of the way, let's get right into it. Episode 6 is titled Too Many Tuna Sandwiches, and we did have mention in the first episode that part of Dexter's daily routine involves eating one of those from the Iron Lake Tavern for lunch. The official description from Showtime reads, "Someone in Iron Lake has discovered Jim Lindsay's secret identity, sending Dexter on the prowl to find out who it was. This pursuit leads him to realize that he might not be the only serial killer in town. Meanwhile, Harrison spirals out of control during a wrestling match, and Angela makes a dark discovery of her own." The next on trailer opens with Angela pulling over Jim Lindsay like she did in the premiere. It looks like he's ready for some spicy roleplay based on the look on his face, which quickly goes sour when she shows him the obituary she printed out at the end of episode 5. She wants to see his other ID, the one for Dexter Morgan, and the look on his face says that he had no idea that this was coming. She's holding proof of who he was and what he's been hiding, and there is no way that he can deny that that's his picture. And I do think it's worth stressing that this is an obituary, as in her boyfriend didn't just change his name and start over in a new town. He faked his own death. And there's a lot to contemplate there, so I'll come back around to the complications that introduces when I get into the theories. At the station, Esther tells him whatever he did to Angela to make her mad, just say sorry. So the people around her know that there's an issue between them. Then as Dexter's looking at Molly's podcast page, we hear, "Who could have found me out? A podcaster from out of town? Could be." He clicks on the Bay Harbor Butcher page to give it a listen, and that gives us a Doak sighting, and we can read the episode description that says, "A cop turned brutal serial killer vigilante who killed criminals who couldn't be caught. Dozens of bodies dismembered, meticulously wrapped and buried at the bottom of the ocean. WTF." It's funny being a viewer who knows more than the characters, because that's really the first time it actually felt like Dokes was a plausible suspect. You also see the Ice Truck Killer episode on the page, which she did mention in the Trinity episode that Showtime uploaded to their YouTube page. And then you see that Dexter is stalking her, trying to figure out if she's the one that pointed Angela in his direction. It's a good question and a conclusion you might expect Dexter to jump to as he's trying to figure things out. A lot of fans had landed there in their early theories, so I will be coming back to that as well. Then there are some shots from a wrestling match. It looks like Dexter's there to watch, and we can guess that this is where the line about Harrison spiraling out of control from the description comes into play. We don't see much, and I'm not sure what to expect here, but it isn't hard to imagine that he might act out or get violent if things aren't going his way. That's followed up by Harrison saying it hasn't exactly been easy being Jim's son, and we see that he's in a therapy session, which they did get the ball rolling in that direction in the last episode, although I don't think he made his first appointment. Here it looks like he's jumping in, and it looks like Dexter has joined him for a family session or something like that. When the therapist questions what he means about it not being easy being Jim's son, you see that Deb is there too, which I found pretty hilarious. She's concerned over what Harrison might say, but I think it's been established that at least when he's not wasted, he'd rather not bring attention their way. That cuts to Kurt standing in front of the truck stop where it looks like he might have found a replacement for Chloe since she messed up his ritual in his last kill cycle. There's a new young woman with a backpack standing alone outside, and it looks like he has her in his sights. After that, there's a quick sequence of Angela and Teddy walking through the forest, and then you see her inside a cave with a headlamp looking at something off screen. This is definitely interesting even without context about how they ended up there, because Kurt definitely seemed like he reacted when she mentioned that they were expanding the search to the caves. Not long after that, he revealed that he got the FaceTime call from Matt, which we know was a lie. Then the trailer comes to an end with Angela asking Dexter if he was running from something in her office. This is the big question he'll have to answer, and I mean it's Dexter, so coming up with lies is one of his superpowers. But Angela is no dummy, and she does have resources at her disposal as a police officer, and she's made a connection with Miami through Batista where she could probably call him anytime she needs to. The story he crafts is going to have to take all of that into consideration, and I suppose this is the point where we can transition into talking about theories. When you think about what Dexter might tell her, you have to take into consideration all the public information that she can find on her own. So Rita's death would play a part in that, and the fact that Harrison was there when she was killed. I think the most popular idea I've seen in the comments and elsewhere on the internet is that Dexter will use the idea of his family being afraid of Trinity. Since he killed Arthur Mitchell and disposed of the body, the public doesn't know what happened to the Trinity killer. Angela will likely know that Trinity killed his wife, and so he could probably play it off like he was running from that. Several years did pass between when she died and he faked his own death, but perhaps he could just add something about Deb into that story. And as mentioned, lying is not something he has a problem with. He was always really quick on his feet in that department, and we have seen a couple of examples of that in New Blood as well. Nobody knows that Dexter Morgan was a serial killer, so it's not like anyone's actually looking for him. But at the same time, I can't see him being able to stay in Iron Lake if he couldn't give her something that satisfied her completely so that she wasn't interested in looking into his past at all. And then that brings up this connection to Molly Park, who happens to be a walking encyclopedia when it comes to the cases that he was involved in. It could be particularly bad for him if Angela was to tell her what she found out. There are two things that stand out about Molly that make it hard to know her motivations. The first is that she just arrived out of the blue in Iron Lake a couple of days after Matt went missing. There was really no explanation for this. Angela did confront her about saying she was a concerned citizen there to help rather than a podcaster out to tell a story, but we never heard why she came to Iron Lake in the first place. It's not a big city. Matt wasn't gone for that long. It's not the kind of place you just show up to. That's led to a lot of theories that she already knows who Dexter is, and that's the real story she's after. But why would she be on his trail? Obviously, she's done podcasts about 3 different cases he was involved with: the Trinity killer, the Bay Harbor butcher, which is Dexter obviously, but the official story is that it's James Dokes, and the ice truck killer. But she would have had to pick up on something that everyone else missed to even suspect that he was related to those beyond Trinity killing Rita. Then she would have had to find him as well. And I'm not saying that it rules it out, I'm just saying we need more information to go off. There's still a lot of mystery about what's going on with Molly. I would be shocked if her background didn't come into play, and she did seem slightly skeptical about the official story when she was telling Angela about the Bay Harbor butcher. But there's still a lot of dots to connect there, and it looks like right now she's going to be on Dexter's radar. Where we're at now, there's kind of a lot of dangling threads. Ed Olson hasn't been around in the last couple of episodes. I still lean towards him being Audrey's biological father out of the theories that are out there, and him not being around hasn't changed that. I think it's obvious he has a role to play in the bigger picture. After Kurt was confirmed to be the killer, I saw more people talking about maybe he was involved with the girls after they were killed. Something like he was the one embalming them, or they're working together to display these bodies somewhere. I don't really see what indicates that other than he kind of looks shady. I mean, the killing's been going on for a long time. He seems to do this regularly. At least he shows up at the tavern every couple of months to play Runaway and dance with the bartender. And we see that he's very specific about his ritual, which I imagine we'll learn about the origin of that in the next couple of episodes. I don't really see a straight line to Ed Olson being involved with that, so we'll have to wait and see. We do see Angela in the caves here, and I think it's likely she's going to find out something about these girls because we know from the other trailers that she'll eventually find the cabin. And I don't know, it just seems silly to me that they would embalm these bodies and put them in the cave, but can totally understand that that's kind of how things add up. So I hope there's a good reason or something funny about how that plays out because it doesn't sound great. I suppose there's a possibility he might have dumped Chloe's body there because it wasn't right for the rest of the ritual. Maybe that's happened before and that's why he was worried about the search. It's hard to say. There's still the whole thing about Matt being dead and no one knowing that except for Dexter. We're also kind of at a standstill about what's going on with Harrison. At the end of the last episode, he was ready to leave town. As far as we know, if Kurt hadn't talked to him, he would have left. Dexter's interpretation of trying to be a good dad after the OD was to leave Harrison without really talking to him about what happened and go hunt down the guy who sold him the drugs. Finding out why he had the straight razor and why he used it to slash Ethan got put on hold. I'm still leaning towards Harrison not being the same as Dexter in relation to the Dark Passenger, but I'm waiting to see what happens at this wrestling match and at the therapy session, because something's going on with him. I think Dexter's gonna learn something about Kurt while he's stalking Molly. Maybe she'll be stalking him after seeing the guy using Matt's cards at the hotel. I think Kurt will continue to try to get close to Harrison, and that's gonna cause Dexter to want to get to him before the police do. It's very possible that Kurt will figure out that there's something going on with Dexter in that relationship, and there's a lot of potential for fireworks there. Once Angela learns that her instincts about a local serial killer are correct, then she'll be focused on finding out who it is. That may make things a little easier for Dexter to put her off about his past, but it's not really clear how she's going to respond to being lied to in the first place. I don't think it's a given that they'll continue to stay together, and I think that's a good place to leave things. Let me know what you're thinking about in the comments, and what theories you're hoping will be correct. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.